Hey, folks, welcome to an episode of the Agency Action Podcast. Hope you like the new name. It's easier to say. And I'm Kurt, and I'm here with my wonderful co host, Toby Crines of the Mighty Mo. And we're going to talk a little bit over the next, 45 minutes or so about the ins and outs of running a successful agency. Toby, how are you, man?
Hey, Kurt, great. So I have a question. You and I have debated this thoroughly uh, and have yelled at each other and screamed at each other over this question. Not really, but should agencies publish pricing or keep the let's talk mystery alive?
And I know that you used the term price anchoring in our last talk, and I totally agree that there is a theory of price anchoring. Like if you say, well, we could do that anywhere between $5,000 and $6,000. You heard $6,000 and they heard $5,000, right? Like we know that there is price anchoring, a philosophy to that. But I also feel like, especially if you're a full service agency, I feel like there has to be, at least in my market, because every market's a little bit different. But in my market, I needed to have a duplicable, commoditized product that I could sell to startups, because there was other agencies in town that were doing similar things. And I didn't want, and everyone makes this assumption because of all the podcasts and stuff that, oh, it's just too expensive to work with Kurt. And so I had to make sure that I had something that I could say, hey, for this much, this much for this much to get started and this much for monthly hosting, we can take care of you and your startup product. And it includes this, and this. But what that really does is open the door to say, well, that's a very basic brochure style setup for a startup. If you want to have a conversation about e-commerce, membership, e-learning, expanding the scope of this thing with any kind of customizations, we'll have to do a real needs assessment, and then we'll give you a proposal from there. But I do price anchor the basic get started with Mañana no Mas thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like an entry level
Yeah.
product.
And then in our website, we decided, and I struggled with this. Is one of those struggle things. This is because pricing is so hard. It's one of the hardest things. Instead of just putting all that vomit on the homepage, I made people have to go get it. So on the Mañana no Mas website, we have the easy button, which is where all that pricing junk is. And then we have a separate tab or page for enterprise work. And hey, if you're an enterprise level client, fill out this quick form and we'll be in touch with you to schedule a needs assessment and roll through some processes.
I do think that hey, you want to, if possible, create this price point object that people can latch onto. But what you just described is also, there's a piece of there that you kind of mentioned briefly, which is you need to clearly define the boundaries of that product, or else you're going to find yourself in hot water really quick.
The creep's crazy. The scope creep is nuts, right? Because people's expectations, especially, and I'm going to say the nasty word, especially with AI, everyone thinks that they've got a best friend on their computer that's going to tell them everything for free. And so they go, oh, well, all you got to do is, hey, I like this website, but I wanted it to be single sign-on membership based with this platform and just kind of integrate that together. And then you go, okay, sure, we could look at doing that for you. I can get your proposal. And they're like, no, I asked ChatGPT and they said all you have to do is, you go, great, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think I was at a meeting earlier this week. Actually, it was a few days ago, and with a client, they've already paid, and we're having trouble getting them to finalize the design, and it's a website design, and they are, and maybe you've run into this. They're the type of client that just doesn't grasp the concept of what a website is, why it exists.
I thought it would have more sizzle.
Yeah, well, it's not even. It's but it's the definition of sizzle that we're really conflicting on, and this is
it needs to pop.
Yeah, and so we're getting emails forwarded to us. Well, I talked to my friend who's also in the plumbing industry, and he says we need to do this. I'm like, okay, and but I was in the meeting with him, and finally I printed out the website design that we have because like they were just not getting it. I printed it out, taped it together because it's like 10 sheets long. Bring it to his website with his office with the Sharpie. I'm like, okay, we're gonna look at this, and I'm just gonna cross stuff out. But in the course of that meeting, at one point, and this is what's related to what we're talking about, he goes, ugh, I could do this myself. Like, what am I paying you for? And I just like laughed out loud because a minute before that, he was having trouble plugging in a USB drive. And I'm just laughing out loud. And, and that kind of ended that,
Yeah.
that part of the conversation. Like,
Yeah. I could just do this myself. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Well, maybe.
I, I, yeah, but back to the commodity pricing. This is where like, and I know like we've talked before, like you like to anchor, even internally, you anchor your price to something along the lines of the time and energy expended versus like value
Trying to make
based
sure I'm not
pricing.
going backwards.
Yep.
That's real
Uh,
important to me. Yeah.
yep. So you want a project to be profitable for you and your team.
Yeah.
And there's this other concept that we know about called value based pricing, which is something else entirely. It's not that. You want it to be as profitable as possible, but you're even like the stuff you're talking about is different than what you would talk about if you're just like, hey, I have expenses and here's how that lands.
Yeah.
Um,
So what's super unique is I am a huge proponent of value-based pricing in other markets. So, I'm an entrepreneur in the true sense that I have multiple verticals. And for the agency work, we track all the things we do as activities and milestones in our project management software so that when I do a needs assessment and someone says, oh, I need this, this, and this, I go, oh, that's like what we did for that last job. That's like what we did for that job. And I can look at that and I go, well, that was 6 hours. That was 9 hours. That was 12 hours, right? I go, okay, so we're looking at like a 50-hour project. 50 where this is our agency rate. Boom. Pat on an extra 25 to 30% for scheduled Zoom meetings that they're probably going to want to have with us and for training after the project is delivered. And then that's the quote, right? So in that standpoint, I'm what you described. But then if you look at my Power Sport Academy website, that is we sell training to power sports dealerships and it's value based. Like our average dealership goes up $600,000 to $800,000 in revenue. So I charge them $45,000 for the training and consulting. And if you break that down by the hour, you'd think I'd be a billionaire by now. Trust me, it doesn't work that way. But that's value-based pricing, right? Dude, spend the 45 grand with me. You're going to 10x the experience anyway.
that's when
So
you're basically pricing it against the revenue they're making, and that's
exactly.
the idea behind value based, or something. There's other ways to do it, but there's this other thing that sits in between, and this is kind of where I live because value based pricing is a different type of selling. It requires like deeper relationships, probably a longer sales cycle, more trust. Whereas I'm on a call with another SEO professional that I think is the best in the business. I've seen his work. He runs an agency, and I'm on the call with him because I want to like white label his service or hire him. And I just, he's like, well, what did you charge for this project? And I was like, I told him, and he's like, you charged a lot for that, for what you're delivering. And I'm thinking like, you got this all wrong. You're not charging enough because you're way better than me. And I'm hiring you to deliver this. Like,
Yeah.
and so that's like this is like, hey, maybe you should just double your pricing and based on nothing, but maybe you can achieve that,
I mentioned on this show before, but I'll mention it again. I'm a pretty tight agency, right? So I'm a one-man office working out of my house. We got people all over the world that work for us as subcontractors, but I don't have an office center, right? And I was subcontracted by a rather large agency to be a sales engineer on a call. And I did it. It was great. And they're great people. I love working with the people. But I found out that needs assessment was like 10 grand. And I was like, gulp, right? Because I was like, I don't charge 10 grand for discovery. I'm like, how much can I charge for discovery?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, this $1,500 buy-in, this ain't enough. Now we got to
No,
shoot for 2,500, 3 grand.
and this is the thing, you go, let's say the call was an hour long, you did an hour prep. So let's say you're in like 2 hours or 3 hours. Let's say 3 hours for that call. And they're going to make 10 grand on it. And they can't have the call without you.
Yeah,
And maybe they could find another expert, but that's harder to do than just paying you.
yeah,
And so you go, this is the value-based thing in that scenario. What is it worth? I mean, I would argue it's probably worth at least half of that ticket. If I'm hiring you, like, and you were playing hardball, I'd be like, maybe it's worth the entirety because I'm like setting myself up for a way bigger invoice later. Like, and this is the value based thing. Like, maybe if you had come in and who knows, but like in that I've seen or heard about scenarios like that where they come in, they just say, you're going to pay me the full 10 grand and you're going to make money later. And maybe that's worth it.
yeah. We're in such a unique space because the pricing can be whatever you want it to be. You just have to have the confidence to sell it, and they have to have the budget to buy it.
Yeah. And you know, I don't want to like shortchange like the experience of delivering the product too means something, and like a track record of success means a lot actually, and your reputation. So I don't want to like discount that, but
Yeah,
you're totally right. Like once you have that reputation and that experience, then this is where the value based thing, that the ultimate scenario in a value based project is when the CEO says, "Get me Kurt Von Anen," because then you can charge whatever you want because
yeah.
there's no alternatives. They've just set you up, you know?
It's it's very unique that you say it like that. There's a corporation that I used to do a lot of work with, and they had changes, and we went our different ways. I'm not really angry, right? Not angry, but it's weird the way life works because now, years and years later, they have somebody that is leaving their staff, retiring. And they're like, well, who are we going to get to do this work now? Right. And they're like, well, there's really only one dude I can think of.
Mhm,
And boom, my phone rang. And I was like, well, I'm not moving. It's going to be remote and it's not going to be cheap.
mhm,
So what do you guys want to do? You know, but
mhm.
I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Toby, does this only come with age? Or do you think young people can pull this off too? Because when I was young and I tried to play hardball, I just went back to the bench. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there's
And as I
something
got
to
older,
that.
people are like, well, let's just cut them the check.
Yeah, there's some, something to that. I mean, it's hard to you have to have a proven track record to be in that room, you know, and or to be on that Rolodex where someone calls you. You know, you need some experience probably, or at least be a mega talent, which could happen too, you know?
Well, let's segue this because this is kind of a good extension of what we were talking about. Let's say you go to these needs assessments and you're in the room, right? And then they start peppering you with needs, demands, expectations, some of it's stuff you've never heard of before. How do you deal with talking to clients about something you've never built, but not looking like you don't have a clue what you're talking about?
Yeah, this is the art of selling, and this is there's people that are born with this talent,
Here
and the
comes
rest of
Zig
us have
Ziglar.
what's that?
Here comes Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, the rest of us have to learn it, and we're all starting from a certain talent level. Um, there are people who will walk into that room and without thinking will answer every question perfectly, and these are the people you've heard about who they interview for every job they've ever interviewed for, they've landed, and it's not that they're great at the job, it's that they're great at interviewing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I think this is really hard and I struggle with this. I hired a salesperson at the Mighty Mo recently who's really good at this actually and really good at like thinking through like what might they ask that we can like get ahead of and provide, you know, supporting materials. And a lot of it is just steering them back. It's like the politician thing. You want to steer them back to the thing that you want to talk about. And even humans that who are really smart and run companies or tech people who are really seem like hard asses, they're human. And almost every human is a herd animal who can be shepherded back to some direction if you're a good shepherd of people, you
Yeah.
know, and emotions. And maybe part of it is part of the talent and the art is like you want them to feel heard. It's like any relationship. you're the people that are best at this, they help you feel heard, and they help whatever they say, you feel like your question is being addressed.
I have I have a unique approach in this situation, and it's worked to my benefit multiple times. So someone asks for some magic to happen on a website, right? I'll do like what you said. Like I'll restate their thing in different words to let them know that they're heard. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're looking for a website that works this magical whiz bang thing. And they go, "Oh yeah, that would be wonderful." And I'll say, "Well, in our experience, we've done a lot of projects and we have a full team of experts. So it's WordPress and we can do anything. So we know that we can make it happen as long as you have a budget to make it become reality." And then that's when they start to go, "Oh, how much is my idea going to cost?" And I go, "And if we step outside your budget, I'm sure that we've done something similar in the past and we can kind of tweak it and get close, but it might not be exactly what you're looking for." Well, and then I start asking those questions like, "What's the root cause of this request anyway?" A lot of
Mhm.
times it's just
Yeah.
superfluous
W
nonsense.
well, and that's a great way to redirect the conversation, like, put it back on them, like, "Oh, interesting question, you want this thing. Why are you asking?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's causing
What's
this
the root
question?"
cause of this request?
Yeah, and if you can get there, oftentimes you can blow past the part where you look like an idiot.
Let them be
Yeah.
the idiot.
Yeah. Um, and also, like, if you ever get stuck in it, one thing you could do is focus on your process. "Oh, we don't know exactly we have to scope this out more because it's a complex question, but we have a process for scoping it out, and the process looks like this."
Yeah. And it requires that $3,000 discovery.
Yes, yeah, and exactly. Yep, you can set up this. Yeah, perfect, perfect. Here's another one. E- E-commerce is something that the Mighty Mo does, but we don't push it because we understand from experience, how complex it is and how difficult it can be. We ran Lumi deodorants e-commerce for years, and we ran into pretty much every problem you can run into, from tac WordPress to fulfillment to buying enough ingredients to create the product. um, and so, but that experience and others kind of led us to be like, e-commerce is its own beast. Like, even outside of WordPress, like, it's just a thing. And have you heard of any companies have kind of surprised you by saying, like, we don't do e-commerce?
It it doesn't cease to amaze me, actually, Toby. There's, especially if you get active on X or you're in post status and you're tracking all the, just do a search for WordPress and follow a bunch of people, right? And some names are going to rise to the top. People that have spoken at WordCamps, people that, run larger agencies, people that, and then you start to have conversations with them or chat with them, or you watch their feedback in the feed, right? And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we don't do e-commerce. We focus primarily on 5-page brochure marketing websites." And I'm thinking to myself, your agency dwarfs my agency. Like I'm just a little tiny speck in your giant world, and you're telling me that you made a giant world out of 5-page marketing brochure websites? Because, and well, now this is going to make me sound like a jerk. It's the way it came out. The order of my conversation is out of place. If I'm focusing on Lifter LMS websites and e-learning websites and membership, intuitively we're dealing with e-commerce because we're selling memberships and courses. And so I'm dealing with this on a regular, ongoing concept. Like it's always in my sphere. And then I see these names that I have a huge amount of respect for, and they're like, "We don't do any e-commerce." And then it strikes me like, well, we're back to pricing now, right? I'm probably grossly undervaluing what we're building for membership and learning websites and building those complexities in for, even though the tools I've gotten used to and have become an expert with them. That's my 20 years of expertise, and I'm giving it away at 5-page marketing site value, right?
Yeah.
It's just a different way to look at things. And it does surprise me, but then my version of e-commerce is completely different than what you just described. I'm not selling coffee mugs, tapestries, and handbags, right? And I'm not getting order fulfillment from Pakistan. We're selling digital product. It's almost like having easy digital downloads on a website.
Mhm.
So it's
You
a different version of e-commerce.
right, yeah. Um, and you mentioned something that's interesting, and it's like, maybe you're underpricing the service, and maybe you are, and the question is, how do you know if you are?
Keep pushing until people say no.
Yeah, right. Like, so, and this gets into what we originally talked about here is like, if you have a price on your website, you're kind of locked into a price and you're anchoring, even if it's a low price, you're now anchoring yourself as like a low cost provider, maybe not always, but you potentially run that risk. And a lot of that's the art of the sale. I've seen prices go from $100 to 20,000 pretty quick and with people sign the contract. But like, the only way to really know, I think, is to pitch that higher price, and I always recommend, like, pitch a way higher price if you're not sure, and
I took a stab at one a couple of years ago, and this came from, and I won't tell the whole story, but I once ended up on a call with Petronas Oil Company to ask for a little bit of money, and someone else on the call asked for what I thought was a giant amount of money. And in that experience, I learned it doesn't matter what the dollar is, spit it out. And if they're in a position to say yes, they'll say yes. And so a couple of years ago, I was talking to a very large retailer in the marine industry, and they wanted me to do some big project. And it wasn't a small project, it was a big project. I said, well, let me draft you up a proposal for that, and we did a needs assessment call, and I took some notes, and I said, okay, it's about $230,000. And so I sent it off. And there's people listening to this podcast right now that are probably going, he did what? But it was 230 grand. It is what it is. That's the number. And we entertained it for like 6 months. Like it went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And in the end, they went in another direction. But I don't, surprisingly, Toby, I don't think it was the price that caused them to go the other direction. They
no.
went with a different technology.
Yeah.
And so that just reassured me that that market exists
Yep.
and we have to keep pushing. There was a larger company, I think I told you this one. They have a franchise, one franchise for every state. We worked on Tennessee's website and they liked it. And they had us get on a call with the corporation that runs the franchises for everybody. And they said, "Well, how much would it cost if you did this for the whole network?" And I very casually, with confidence, said, "Well, Tennessee spent this much money. You got 49 other states. So what's 49 times this? And then let's toss in a 15% discount for bulk work. Looks like $2.1 million." And the guy just said, "Oh, that sounds about right. We'll get back to you." And I was like, they didn't even flinch. It could have been
Yeah.
more.
I think there's something here that is really interesting to me. There's this thing that's real that if you know, most people in our industry, especially as you're getting started, and I still experience it, it's that if you lose a deal, it's a big deal to you emotionally at minimum, but maybe business wise. Um, the way to, I think, to get over that is to get significantly more leads coming in and
Yeah.
significantly more conversations. And then you can practice that price increase. If you know you have another 3 calls coming, you can freeze you up to price a lot higher, I think. And one thing, we're working on this right now, and I'm realizing something emotionally for me it's been hard for me to let go of. It's that like I'm gonna look real. My marketing, it's getting. I'm investing a lot in marketing right now, in making that pipeline bigger. And what I'm noticing is like I am not at all comfortable with the marketing that's happening. And I don't mean that they're doing bad or saying anything weird or anything like that. It's just like, for example, I've been doing investing in LinkedIn marketing over the last few months, and I've had 2 people who I don't even know, but who like as part of this marketing campaign have been added as friends or whatever on LinkedIn, and they've said, "Don't email me anymore." So I block them, but I gotta say, like when that happens, I'm like emotionally, it takes a toll, a big toll, a disproportionate toll. Like they're just like, "Who's the spammer?" Just don't.
Yeah.
Um, And I think like this is my current hypothesis. If you're going to expand that funnel, get pitch more higher priced products, you gotta live in that uncomfort. You gotta get comfortable with that really like spammy-ish marketing stuff. And I think every big company does it. I don't know. I've been getting these emails from Rippling. I don't know if you have too. Like 3 a day, like sign up with Rippling, and it's like these like really AI driven like you just immediately. I'm like, gosh darn it, stop emailing me. And I spam them every time. They keep coming through. I bet you the CEO of Rippling doesn't care that I
Nope.
spammed him. And
Nope.
that's how you. I think that's how. Well, that's my current hypothesis. To get to the next level, I need more leads, and therefore I have to do more uncomfortable stuff, and that'll
Well,
let me increase my price as well.
pride is one of the things that really holds humans back, right? You're always worried about what someone's going to think of you. And I go to now, I'm not saying this is a great example. I personally can't stand it, but this is part of the reason why Manana no Mas has stayed small, I think. I ordered a book from Grant Cardone called The 10X Rule. Ever since I ordered that book, and it's got to be 5 years ago, I get emails nonstop from him and his sales team and all these people thinking I need to be in the Grant Cardone 10X, public speaking society. We're going to pick the best speaker in the country. You need to compete and blah, blah. Join us. Join our mentor team. It's like it never stops. You unsubscribe, you're back on the list. You unsubscribe again, you're back on the list. And we as web agencies, we're scared to death of spamming somebody and someone, getting a $20,000 fine for spamming. And like we live in this weird fear driven thing of spam and email and GDPR and accessibility. And like we're thinking of the back end of these websites. But when you look at who's really getting ahead and who's making a ton of money, look at Grant Cardone, look at Tony Robbins, look at Dean Gracioni, look at what's his face, Russell Brunson with the potato gun. Once you get on their email lists, you ain't getting off. And the
Yep.
spam just keeps coming.
Yep.
But I want to share with you what I think is a secret for LinkedIn. Do you want me to share a secret for LinkedIn?
Oh, I would love to hear your secret.
I personally hate the spam in LinkedIn. In fact, I used to be in LinkedIn every day and I used it. I mean, I went from 1,200 connections to over 10,000 connections pretty quickly. I have a system for it. But I use the direct messaging like text messaging. I don't send people 3 paragraphs and this is what we do. And I'd love to have a discovery call with you and click this link and schedule. I don't do any of that. I just say, hey bro, thanks for accepting the connection. Do you want to break the ice on a quick call? No links, no nothing. And if they say, yeah, that sounds great, then I send them a link and we do a quick Zoom call and get to know each other. And I tell them if they go, hey, what's this call about? I just say, well, it's not a sales call. I just want to get to know you. And if you're someone that I feel I can do business with, maybe we have that different conversation at another time. And then they go, oh, yeah, it can't hurt. And then they jump on a call. Out of the 10,000, I've personally spoken to maybe 7,000 of those people. But what it usually turns into is a warm introduction. Like if you and I get on a call and we meet, by the time we get off that call, I'm going to ask John Maxwell's favorite question, which is, who do you know that I should know? And then I say, hey, you know what? You sound like a great person to connect with Timothy Morgan. I'm gonna hook you guys up on a combined message. And then when I do that, there's that element of reciprocity, right? Where they say, ah, man, Kurt just hooked me up with Timothy. I should probably hook him up with George.
Do you say it in that way? Do you say, "Who do you know that I should know?"
Exactly.
So this is another example of like that's a very uncomfortable question. I bet for a lot of people to ask on a call with someone they don't even know. But
Yeah.
this is kind of the gist of it. Like get uncomfortable, people. If you want to expand, what's more important, being comfortable or expanding that sales funnel? Like,
Well, like when the Chamber of Commerce has a meet and greet breakfast, they had one this morning in our town. I know like 10 or 15 people are sitting at these 2 tables. So I could sit at those 2 tables or they had a bunch of food trucks and stuff. It was a really cool event this morning. Or I could go up to the line where the food truck is and be like, oh, you getting biscuits and gravy? I don't think we've met yet. I'm Kurt with Manana no Mas. Who are you? What do you do? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, where are you sitting? You got space at your table. And then you meet the rest of that table, and that's uncomfortable because you're like, I don't even know if this person is someone that skims pools in the summertime, chances are they're not going to be a great web client for me. But if they skim pools in the summertime, maybe they know 17 other business owners. that fall into that "who do you know that I should know" quotient.
Yeah, and this is kind of like a related question about time, and it's like you're casting a pretty big net, I think, with the strategy you just talked about. Like, you're not doing targeted marketing where you're saying, "Show me only marketing directors and within 5 miles of my house." You're kinda, uh, especially on LinkedIn, like, you're saying, "I'm gonna find 10,000 people, and hopefully I'll talk with 7,000 of them."
Well, the initial search in LinkedIn for people to connect with is a Boolean search that's focused on business owners, e-learning websites, all that
Mhm,
kind of stuff. So I try to get into that niche, that market that Mañana No Mas serves,
mhm.
but I'm completely open. Once I make those connections, I'm completely open to let them expand to who do they know that I should know. And it's interesting what we pick up from there.
How many calls a week are you currently taking from your LinkedIn campaign?
Maybe just two. For a
Mhm,
while there, it was like 6 or 7 a week.
mhm,
And I gotta be honest, this is the part where you gotta be careful what you ask for. Once you get up to, like, 10,000 connections in LinkedIn, the spam and the maintenance to, like and share and comment and all that to stay in the feed, it
mhm,
it 10x's as well,
mhm.
right? And so, yeah, I got to where, I was having 7 or 8 meetings a week. Was I getting 7 or 8 jobs out of it? No, obviously not. And so I was like, I gotta cut this back and I gotta focus more. For us right now, we're focused on our local development for that startup work. And so we're concentrating much more on local SEO, local sales events, networking, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes
LinkedIn
sense.
turns into a job when you see that you can hire a VA for $4 an hour from the Philippines to run your LinkedIn account. When you get to 10,000 connections, that's when you start thinking I should probably hire someone to go through this stuff.
Right. Well, and you would only do it it's interesting what you described because I've talked to 2 LinkedIn experts this week who have a seems like a very different approach to what you just described in the sense that it's a very much more traditional marketing, like, "Let's qualify this lead before we invest more time in them."
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know which is better, probably different strategies, there's different good things that come from each probably, but your strategy seems like very much more in my comfort zone. Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like say, hey, no pressure. But I'm talking to these guys, and their strategy is to get me one sale a week, which you can imagine is a very different direct message campaign on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
That's a different engine altogether.
Like, I'm like, if it leads to a sale a week, I can deal with looking like an idiot here and there or
Yeah.
feeling like a dumbass.
I think a lot of it, again, I'm a very use case specific kind of person. I with every client we have, I'm like, well, let's take a look at your use case, right? Because nothing's cookie cutter. Once you're an agency and once you're established and once you have enough recurring income coming that it's okay with me if the pipeline extends. And so I'm going to market from my comfort level and I'm going to let that pipeline extend and I'm going to do a lot of top of funnel activity so that the bottom of funnel activity is steady so that I get a steady flow. If I were a new agency, I would be all in on get me a client a week, because I got to get this thing built and quick. But I think once it's built and stable, I have the ability to be more casual and be myself and not give myself anxiety.
Yeah, and I think like uh, there's different phases of life
Yeah.
as a human who owns
I
an
want to go
agency. So
bicycling.
yeah, right now you're like, you understand that, like, let's say you wanted to 2x your income as your top of, you know, bottom line, just top in money in. You want to 2x it. You know that it's going to require some effort that you're not currently doing.
Yeah.
Um, and probably a lot of effort that you're not currently doing and you're choosing not to. And I think I think one thing that's missed in almost all the literature and business books is like that choice is very legitimate and as legitimate as any other choice, let's say. But I'm actually listening to a Grant Cardone book right now about 10x Mentor. I think 10x is like his brand, I think. Um, and he doesn't even consider that as an option. Like, oh, you
No.
just want to sit around and fish. He doesn't even like that. I don't even think that compute. He's like, my computer broke. I don't understand. Like, like Like, I
Yeah.
don't think he would understand at all what that is. Um, sorry, my phone's going crazy here. I just like to call out that there's different ways to do it. Right now, we're in growth mode, and so I'm in I'm in discomfort world for
Yeah.
myself. And the Mighty Mo, we're stretching. I'm selling projects, and I'm at the point now, and this has not happened ever for the Mighty Mo, where I'm like, I don't even remember what that project is. Like this other one's coming in. I'm now focused on this, and I've handed that one off to our project manager. And by the way, our project manager has given me 2 months notice, so I need to find another project manager. It's like, and I'm hiring another developer. Like the, I'm in very much uncomfortable territory. But part of what I've decided for this phase of my life and business is that I'm going to power through it and see what's on the other side.
Yeah.
And it might take a year or two, but I'm going to be uncomfortable for a year or two.
Well, and kudos to you. I think one of the key elements that you just described that a lot of, especially like solopreneur startup agencies are going to have a really difficult time with is that transition from solopreneur to running the show. Like you're running the show. So if you have a lot of projects and you have a project manager, and yeah, it's totally normal that you would disconnect from the actual project because you're paying someone else to manage it. Now you can focus on sales and being that uncomfortable dude on sales calls and getting that new work top of funnel. Let's call it mid funnel at this point, right? So now you can really focus in that area and generate revenue. That's huge. Um, no one realizes like what the goals are in growth. A lot of people that are solopreneurs, agency folks building websites in a little office, for some people, that's it. That's all they really want to do. Right. For me, I'm a great project manager. Like I'm really great at orchestrating other people around and I'm pretty decent at sales. And so it makes sense that like you, I would rather I would rather project manage the business. I would rather manage the business and let it grow underneath me and let people focus on their skill set and what they're comfortable with.
Yeah. And one thing that kind of goes unsaid, if you're not pushing for growth, it's not going to happen.
No, it doesn't happen. Or everyone goes, oh, I prefer to grow organically. Like the
Yeah.
crystals and pyramids talk about, holistic growth. I'm like, no, no, you're living in some kind of dream world. That dream world is super. Is it prolific? The word I'm looking for, in membership and learning websites, the thing that we focus on. All these people are like, oh, I've got this great idea for blah, and then they build some website, and then I'm like, a year later, I'm like, you have one paying student. Yeah, I guess the hosting's not as good as I thought it was. I'm like, your hosting has nothing to do with your inability to sell your course.
Yeah.
Like you got to get on podcasts, you got to put out, lead magnets. Did you write a book yet? And they're like, write a
Right.
book. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, how are you going to share your ideas if you're not an expert in the space?
Yeah. And it takes real investment of either a ton of your time or a ton of someone else's time and your money to make these things happen, or quote unquote organically. I should say, like, there are plenty of people in web dev, I'd say the Mighty Mo included. Like, our growth did happen organically. We've done no marketing. We did a lot of like SEO internally, but like we haven't made huge investments. But we over 19 years, our ceiling has remained steady. And that's because we relied on the organic thing. And like our ceiling has pretty much for the last 15 years been here. And we've never been able to break through that. This year, because I've been investing, we've broken through that. Now, the scary thing is, can we keep it going? Scary because I've never done it. But like, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we can keep the growth going. And I guess the point is like, um, if you want to do the Grant Cardone thing, part of what he talks about and others like him, they're like, and I do want to preface this, like, I think most of what he says is BS, and and all these guys, like all these business people that are writing books, they're mainly writing them to sell books. And you describe this as one example, but he's one example of many. Uh, you're on his email list. Why are you, if he's such a billionaire, why is he sending you emails?
Exactly. Yeah.
He's not as big a deal as he says he is. We can start there, because if he was, we're not getting emails from Elon Musk.
No, and I'm not getting any email from Bill Gates either.
Yeah, exactly. So clearly that's part of his money is like getting you. I was listening to his book and he's like, oh, if you want to learn about this thing I'm talking about, you need to come to one of my seminars. And yeah, this guy's probably rich. He's has many big books and does these huge seminars, but he's still making money off the seminars.
So there is one thing I want to touch on that you mentioned, and you mentioned the ceiling, right? That revenue ceiling. I used to race motorcycles. For 20 years, I raced motorcycles. And I graduated from a modern vintage GSXR 1100 to an actual super bike, and a 750 Yamaha super bike in the year 2000. So that's how old I am, right? This is back when I was thinner and faster. And I showed up at a racetrack where my lap time was like a minute 2, right? Ricky Orlando, who is a famous dude from where I come from, Ricky Orlando comes up, oh, great bike, Kurt. You're going to love it. These 750s are so fast, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, I'm really hoping to see what I can do today. You know, he says, well, what was your lap time on the Suzuki? I said, a minute 2. He goes, well, don't expect to get less than a minute 1 today. And I was like, kind of hurt, you know? And I said, dude, are you serious? I mean, from a modern vintage sled like that to this, you know, sleek race bike. And I said, this thing makes 136 horsepower, blah, 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 blah. Like all that. And he goes, stop. He goes, here's what's going to happen. He goes, I'm just going to tell you now. You're going to go out, you're going to do some laps, you're going to come back, and your lap times are actually going to be worse because you don't have the familiarity that you have with the old bike. Then you're going to go out and you're going to do some more laps, and you're going to do the same lap time. Then you're going to get mad at yourself, and you're going to go out and you're going to push really hard, and you're going to take like a second off your lap time. You'll do like a minute 1. And I said, what? I was mad. I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, your brain creates a muscle memory of that lap, and you're not, unless you like purposely break that muscle memory, you're just going to keep doing the same thing. Your body's used to averaging 136 miles an hour around this track, and so you're going to do 136 miles an hour around this track, even though this bike will do 150. And I was like, and I'm using weird numbers there, folks, I didn't really go 150 miles an hour. And so after that conversation with him, he was right. At the end of that day, I did a minute 1. And so I talked to him again, and he said, the next time you take that bike out, when you're on the back straight and you're going as fast as you think you're going to go, he goes, I want you to consciously turn the throttle the rest of the way open. I said, what? He goes, you're not opening the throttle all the way. Because mentally, you're doing what you did before. So I went out for a second day at the track, and he was absolutely right. I still had like 40% of throttle to go. And then I was like, what? And he goes, so now you have to get used to the idea that when you're racing, you're either all the way on the brakes or you're all the way on the gas. There is no coasting in a racetrack. And these are the kinds of ideas that I bring into business now, right? There's no coasting in business. Like if you're focused on business, like you're focused in a growth mode now, it's your foot's on the gas, man. Your foot's either on the gas or it's on the brakes.
Whoa. Hey,
Whoa.
I hopped in by accident.
Hey, look who's here. Everybody. It's
Welcome
Matt
to the
Medeiros.
Agency Action Show with our special
Hey.
guest, Matt Medeiros.
Welcome to the Agency Action Show, gentlemen. I was just logging in to check some stuff out, and here you are.
This is
How's things going?
fantastic.
Yeah.
We're not going to
What's on
have
the
to
top?
pay you for a guest
Matt,
appearance,
no,
are
Matt,
we?
it's actually really good you're here. We
Yeah,
brought
go
on our special guest, Matt Medeiros, today
Love
to
it.
answer this question. There's this theory that Kurt was just outlining that when you're in growth mode, you've got the throttle on your motorcycle going 100% all the time, whatever you're doing that day. And this podcast, and you're building a podcast empire here that requires a lot of growth right now. And I'm curious what it's requiring of you versus whatever the previous iteration was. Like, in the analogy Kurt gave in terms of the motorcycle was like, you're basically only going, if you're not full throttle, you're coasting, and then therefore you're going 40%. Or maybe there's still another 40% to give, but I'm in growth mode right now for my business. How about you? Like what are you feel like you're at 100 now?
Yeah. How
like
do you keep your foot on the gas and keep this
discomfort,
thing
your
pushing?
you're experiencing discomfort every moment of the day. That's what 100 means.
Yeah.
Or are you something less than that? And
Yeah.
where you at?
If I used to ride dirt bikes and mopeds when I was younger, and I remember, when I was younger riding, like when I went from like an 80cc dirt bike to a 125, and then I tried my friend's 250, I was scared out of my mind, right? Like, like going from like those slower things to, so the full throttle to me, like you said, that uncomfort. Yeah, that's what I feel like every day. And, so I do feel like I'm going 100%. Also have a full-time day job while I try to build this podcast sort of network. But the thing that I'm looking for now is like, okay, I'm going 100 miles an hour, but which place am I going to on this motorcycle? Like, am I going to the right place at 100 miles an hour, or am I just doing 100 miles an hour down the freeway, doing whatever I want to do? And as you guys know, internally, when I have these conversations, what I found for me anyway, in the age of AI, in the age of so much content, and I know you both know this because you both do your own content stuff, is where can I land with this content? So like Agency Action Show is helping that agency owner with like the strategy, with the hand-to-hand combat of agency life, and like, why and what they need to do to run a proper agency. Even if it's not WordPress, they can learn how to run a proper agency, client services. And now, how can I get you guys in front of the right people? So that's where I'm shifting gears to use the same analogy, is shifting gears to how can I get all the hard work Toby and Kurt are doing in front of the people that need this content most. And that's the challenge. Like, I know the direction. I'm going to keep going 100 miles an hour, but now how can I get your show into the right hands? How can I get the WordPress show into the right hands? How can we get the courses into the right hands? And that's what I'm focused on mostly right now. So a lot of things happening.
What skill set do you feel you're lacking, or to make that happen?
Organization.
You're going to need to hire somebody. Let's say you need to hire a team to help you get there. What do you need to hire?
So this is a great conversation. Literally minutes ago, just talking. That's why I was hopping onto Riverside to check some stuff out for Eric. So Eric he's been doing the podcast for a while, the standalone podcast, the short form podcast. But he started out with me a few years ago just writing and just writing blog posts, and being the typical freelance, writer. And he helped me. And as I evolved the WP Minute, he helped curate the news. Sort of been like this evolution of him becoming just a freelance writer to an editor. And now he's doing a lot of the courses. So he's shifting. Like, I know I want to do courses. I know I want to have a closer human connection with the content that we're doing. Like, I'm never going to be this like 1 million page views a month kind of place. So if I'm not going to be that, how can I get 10 or 12 people to engage with a course every 3 or 4 months? Like, how can I get this content thing to be more human? So there's no way I have time for that. So Eric is going to create the courses for me. First course launches next week. And he's also editing and helping produce the shows and put the newsletter stuff into place. Now, because he's so busy with courses, I'm looking for people to edit the show and get it into place, which is what he's been doing. But he's like, hey, if I start doing these courses, I'm not going to have time for that. So I'm starting to, and I brought on another freelance writer because he's not writing as much anymore. So it's like I was, graduating myself up, having Eric come in to write, and now I'm finding myself having to graduate Eric and then finding people to backfill the stuff that he's been doing for me for so long. So, yeah, and I was just like, organization and keeping this stuff all like dialed in. That's the hardest part. 3 young kids, full-time job, and this. I find myself going, what am I? I'm just 100 miles an hour, but where am I going?
Right.
And that's where I struggle the most.
Ring, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. 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 But I put stickers on it, Kurt, so it goes a lot faster. Stickers on my bike, stickers on my helmet. So
That's good stuff.
Cool.
Well,
Yeah,
you want to wrap this up?
Yeah. Let's wrap.
Folks, this has been another exciting episode of the Agency Action Show. It's a wonderful, wonderful treat to have Matt Medeiros join us. And folks, we will see you next time on the Agency Action Show. Bye-bye.